Could the Minnesota Vikings actually be trading for Anthony Richardson? Well, it's certainly possible, as he is now seeking a trade, and the Minnesota Vikings have already been linked to him. Plus, we're going to talk about my top 10 quarterback additions for the Minnesota Vikings, and they all have different criteria. What does that mean? I'll explain all of that and more on the Real Forno Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Real Forno Show, your go-to spot for everything Minnesota Vikings. Hosted by the one and only Tyler Forness, the beat writer and NFL draft guru for A to Z Sports. Bringing you the sharpest breakdowns, film study, analytics, draft scouting, and unfiltered takes on your beloved Vikings. Whether he's diving into the latest roster moves, pre-game outlooks, post-game reactions, or hunting for the next big prospect in SKOL search, he's got you covered from every angle. So buckle up, Vikings fans. Let's get into it.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Real Forno Show. I'm your host, Tyler Forness. With me, as always, in the top of the corner is producer Dave. And what an interesting day it has been so far. We'll talk briefly about the comments from Kevin O'Connell and Rob Brzezinski. And quite frankly, I don't really think we learned a whole lot. It's just kind of the same stuff. But there was one little nugget that I found really interesting that we'll talk about. We're going to talk about Anthony Richardson and the trade rumors and my top 10 potential quarterback additions this offseason. And that list is going to be interesting because there are multiple quarterbacks at different levels. And I'll kind of explain my thought process behind building that. But first, I think we should start off with the comments that we got from Rob Brzezinski and Kevin O'Connell. I didn't really learn a whole lot from them, Dave. The one thing that I got is I really don't think that this team is sold anymore on JJ McCarthy. And
see, I took just the opposite.
So, okay, let me parse out my reasoning. I'm going to pull up the quote that really led me to believe that from Kevin O'Connell, because O'Connell is like a politician. The way he talks is incredibly calculated and careful. He doesn't make mistakes when he speaks. He doesn't say anything without a filter. He understands how the media perceives him. He understands how to speak to the media, and he does so very calculated. And I don't mean that as an insult. It's just how he talks. And a lot of coaches are like this. They're very media trained people. So when he did talk, it was really interesting because he explicitly said, and this it was a short quote, a lot of those feelings are still the same, talking about JJ McCarthy as a franchise quarterback. It's just the timeline is in a different place for all of us than it was in 2024. That worries me a lot. And the reason why it worries me a lot is, we're in a different timeline than we were in 2024. He's 2 years into his career. But the fact that we're talking about timelines in 2024, to me, was a big red flag that they're not 100% sold. And before I kick it over to you, Dave, for your take, this coming from the end of that quote that he had back in September of 24 about organizations fail young quarterbacks for young quarterbacks fail organizations. This was the end of that quote. I do believe there's some times where things just don't work out, and then getting a chance to kind of wipe the slate clean and get a restart while still using your previous experiences to kind of shape how you're going to work, why you're going to work, why things are important to you, will only make guys better in the end. And I've seen some examples of that in our league as well over the last few years. That was kind of explicitly talking about the idea of Sam Darnold on how he needed a restart. But it was the end of that quote talking about the development of JJ McCarthy. To me, I'm concerned that they don't truly believe in him like their words are saying. And the one thing with O'Connell is you can kind of read between the lines and you can pick up little hints. He'll leave breadcrumbs to try and help you understand what he's saying and what he's thinking. And I think, and I thought this for a while, I think they're setting up to move on from him by how calculated they've been with their conversations. And some of these quotes from O'Connell, where the more you read into it, the more it feels like he has been laying the groundwork to move on from him if he stinks. And you can talk about the organizations failing on quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail organizations, and that's completely valid and fair. But I've said it all along. I think you can argue that McCarthy has failed them just as much as the organization has. And that comes with the injuries. That comes with the poor play. That comes with a lot of different factors. And whether we like it or not, him going to the birth of his child is a problem because Kevin O'Connell has made it a problem because he continues to talk about it. He talked about it, what, Dave? Like 6 or 7 press conferences after it happened. If it wasn't a problem, KOC doesn't mention that again. But it was a problem. And I think it wasn't a problem because he was just being a good family man. It was a problem because he sucked after that. He sucked in the game with that happening during the week. And all of those factors kind of combining into one, there is literally nothing in the world that they would do with JJ McCarthy at this point that would shock me. Whether it be trade, whether it be bench, whether it be he's the starter, whether it be he has to win a camp battle. The only thing that would shock me is they just outright cut him because I think he would have to do something incredibly illegal for that to happen. I don't like he's shown enough flashes. He's not in danger of being cut. Anything else? I think all bets are off at this point. And the way they're communicating, it's very strategic. And I don't blame them because if they get this wrong, O'Connell could be out the door. Doesn't matter the 43-25. You blow a top 10 pick on a quarterback and you blow an elite defense like this. It's hard for an organization, even one as patient as the Vikings run by the Wilfs, to be like, yeah, you can have another shot. Guys don't get other shots. Bill Belichick only got a couple years after Tom Brady. It's just the way this league works and operates. But Dave, you have a different opinion. Let me know what you think.
Well, I took the same quote. A lot of feelings are still the same. First sentence. Meaning he still likes J.J. McCarthy. It's just that the timeline's in a different place for all of us than it was in 2024. Second sentence. Now, the timeline being changed, yes, it does. Why? To me, it's Kevin O'Connell whining about he only has this year. He's got to get it right. He does believe J.J. McCarthy will develop into a very good quarterback. But does Kevin O'Connell have the time this season to go through that? 100% for sure. And I think Kevin O'Connell's feeling the heat in this one and saying, I've got to get this one right, period. No matter what, no matter who starts, whether I train up J.J. McCarthy to be the quarterback I think he is, whether we bring in somebody else to start or to at least compete with him. You know, the whole idea of competition to speed up his development is good. But Kevin O'Connell is the one I'm getting is feeling the heat. Not so much J.J. McCarthy. Now, I could be wrong. They could trade J.J. You know, we'll find out. But to me, this one is Kevin O'Connell's feeling he's on the hot seat and he has to make the exact right decision. And it's not that he does not like J.J. McCarthy. He does. He's just a little bit perturbed that it's 2 years and we've only gotten 10 games because of various reasons. And half of those games were crap.
Yeah, I think McCarthy's feeling the heat by proxy, because I think you're 100% right. O'Connell's feeling the heat. And we talked about it before. I firmly believe that the removal of both Chris Cooper and Kwesi Ofemensah are, hey, these are our scapegoats, and now we kind of have a clean slate. Now, any issues, you really can't blame those guys anymore. You have a new offensive
it's all
line
on
coach.
KOC this season.
Yeah. You have a new offensive line coach. You have a new assistant coach in Frank Smith, who was a former offensive line coach, who is brought in essentially to build up the run game and bring in some new ideas and concepts. And then you have Kwesi Ofemensah, who they blamed him for picking McCarthy over Sam Darnold, which I'm sorry, you cannot sell me that bag of goods that it was Kwesi's decision to keep JJ McCarthy over Sam Darnold. That was a KOC decision, and Kwesi got the bullet. That I really don't think there's any other way to read into it, because even though Kwesi's got personnel control, O'Connell was picking the quarterback. Are you kidding? They've basically told you O'Connell's the guy. Remember that story? I think it was from Alec Lewis, where he was called the quarterback killer in previous drafts, where he just said, no, I don't want that guy. We all believe it was about Will Levis, which, you know what? Good call. I didn't want Will Levis at 23 either.
I think it was multiple quarterbacks, but yes, Will Levis was one of them.
Yeah, I think that was the explicit one that was kind of referenced per se. But this is going to be a really interesting conversation about where this team is and how they're going to move forward. And I think we can spin that into because I'm going to be honest, I really didn't think Rob Brzezinski said much of anything. He's the only person he talked to really was Tatum Everett of the Vikings Entertainment Network, and Tatum's awesome, but Tatum is not going to grill him. She is not going to press him on different things, because that's not her job. You know, technically Rob Brzezinski might be her boss. Like, I don't really know how the power structure works between the entertainment network and like the front office, but either way, you're all teammates. She's not going to grill him. So the fact that they didn't really speak to any outside media is a little bit telling, but also Brzezinski just kind of spoke in platitudes. No big deal. You know, hey, we have confidence in JJ, but we want to bring in competition. And the fact that they're bringing in so much competition, or they're talking about bringing so much competition at quarterback, it's the more they talk about it, the more it's a red flag to me that I don't think JJ McCarthy's starting next year.
He may not be starting,
and that is a huge, huge deal. And Josh brings up that Rob Brzezinski talked to Paul Allen. Well, I got news for you. Paul Allen also works for the Vikings Entertainment Network. So that's a part of it too. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things develop. I think we're going to get at least a couple Kevin O'Connell press conferences in the next couple of weeks because of free agency. And we should get at least one, maybe two, of Rob Brzezinski before the NFL draft. So,
did you listen to my podcast from yesterday? It was podcast only.
No, I did not.
Oh, you've got to listen to it. I've gone over every single one of these quarterbacks and this exact situation.
Perfect. I'll go take a listen. Hey, you know what? I'm glad I didn't listen to it, because now you know that all of this is coming from my brain, not yours. But make sure you go check that out. Dave is trying to do some podcast only stuff. We also have some SKOL searches coming out. Hopefully one this weekend. We'll kind of see how that editing is coming along. But it's a busy time for both of us here at Vikings First and SKOL. We are a 2-man operation, and we would love it if you would like, subscribe, ring the bell.
2.5.
Oh,
Darren puts in the notes for 2.
Darren doesn't count. Yeah. Darren doesn't count. No, we love you, Darren. Go Bombers. So let's talk about the Anthony Richardson stuff. Anybody who's followed me for a long time knows the affinity I have for Anthony Richardson. I think he is just a huge ball of clay that is waiting to be molded. I don't know if he'll ever be good, but I know he at least needs time. He needs ability, and he needs someone to believe in him and really try to work with some of the issues that he has. So theoretically, Richardson and McCarthy are basically the same quarterback. They both have been prone to injury throughout their careers. They both don't have a ton of passing reps in their repertoire. And they both have very inconsistent mechanics, which leads to inaccuracy. Now, that's in platitudes. Richardson is Josh Allen waiting to just sprout. He's in a cocoon. Will we ever get the butterfly? I don't know. But the idea of bringing in Richardson is this guy can be like Josh Allen because he has the wicked arm talent. He has the mobility. He just needs to piece everything together, and it does not happen. Will it happen? I'm going to be honest. Probably not. But when you have quarterback coaches and head coaches and gurus like Kevin O'Connell, they're going to be drawn to players like this. Why? Because they have everything you can't teach, and there's a coaching mentality, which is why coaches and front offices are often separate. I can fix him. Every coach thinks they can fix every player. It's up to the front office to tell them, no, you're wrong. You can't fix him. Nobody can. So is Richardson a good idea? You are going to have a different opinion on it than me, and other people may have completely different opinions on it than both of us. The big thing here with Richardson is the idea. The idea is the Colts botched his development, which I'm going to be honest, they did. Mm-hmm. Now, some of that was Richardson by getting hurt. Some of that was, from my understanding, Jim Irsay kind of forced the Colts to play him year one when Shane Steichen didn't want to. That's not good for development. I'm going to be honest. I thought he should have played. I thought, you know what? Just throw him out there and let him fail. And by failing, he will succeed because he will learn from his failures. And quite frankly, he only started 1 year in college, 14 total games, and he didn't even have over 400 attempts in college. In the NFL, he's taken 399 dropbacks with 350 attempts. He's a ball of clay that has not been realized yet. There's a lot of work to do. He has a career completion percentage of 50.6%.
Mm-hmm. JJ's is better.
Yeah. And Shy Sun says AR is a bust. He doesn't have it between the ears. See, that's the thing. I actually think he has it between the ears. The problem is he cannot link his brain with his body, and they are not in sync. And one of the things that was an issue with Josh Allen was the hips. The hips were coming way too forward, and all of a sudden, you're losing any leverage you have with your lower half. McCarthy was an overstrider, and that you lose all your leverage from your lower half, and you lose the generated power too. That's why, I said that McCarthy did not have an uber strong arm, but he can throw a really hard football. But he has to have things in good conditions. He has to have his base underneath it. Guys like John Elway and Dan Marino could throw off platform and whip it like crazy. Brett Favre could do it. Aaron Rodgers can do it. Matt Stafford can do it. That's not what J.J. McCarthy's strong arm is. He needs to have that base underneath him, but when he does, he can throw it as strong as anybody. Richardson has alien arm. He can throw bonkers passes. Everybody remembers that week 1 game against the Texans from 24 when he's falling backwards and he throws it an absolute perfect throw to Alec Pierce for a 69-yard touchdown. That's the kind of stuff. That is what Kevin O'Connell wants. He wants a guy who can make those bonkers ass throws and chase different things. Chai-san, we're going to get to everything. He's had issues with injuries, but just relax. We'll get there.
Doc asked, where to go? Just speaking on physical traits, AR versus JJ, who's better?
Easy, Richardson. It's not close. And that's not an insult on McCarthy. McCarthy's got very good physical traits. There's a reason why he was taken 10th overall. But it's Richardson. Richardson has the ability to throw it 75 yards, do a standing backflip, and out sprint you. Richardson ran a 4.43 at the combine. He's bonkers. And can you elevate him to become a starting quarterback in the NFL? The idea behind these two teams making a trade is Kevin O'Connell thinks he can. And they were already linked. Cameron Wolf, who is, I don't know if I could call him an insider, but he works for NFL Network. He's very connected in South Beach because he spent a lot of time working, covering the Miami Dolphins. But he is well connected. Vikings and the Colts are already linked on a Richardson trade. And it shouldn't be any surprise to anybody because we know, and I've reported this, the Vikings tried to trade up for Anthony Richardson in 2023. The first 2 seconds of what I was told by multiple sources. Then.
And you weren't the only one told.
No, I was not. That's been confirmed multiple times by multiple people. Then in 24, Richardson gets benched. We face Joe Flacco. Then there's the embrace at midfield. O'Connell is reaching out saying, hey, I love you. You're going to be great in this league. It's because O'Connell wants him. Mm-hmm. And
it's we know first draft crush.
Yeah. We know that he liked JJ McCarthy a lot. We also know he liked Drake May a lot more. I think Richardson is the guy he really wanted. That he wanted to mold and he wanted to try and evolve into this hybrid alien. Now, is that something that is going to happen? I don't know. I think that a Vikings trade for Richardson makes a lot of sense. I also think it makes a lot of sense if you bring in Kirk Cousins. Because Kirk will come in at the vet minimum, and we're going to talk about Kirk and a lot of other quarterbacks here in just a minute. Kirk will come in at the vet minimum because nobody's going to pay more than $10 million a year.
If he wants to.
Yeah. Kirk, I don't know if he gets the roster bonus if he retires. That would be the kicker. I don't, if they cut him and then he retires, I don't know if he would get that roster bonus. I'd have to ask around. So he may have to play for another team in order to get that roster, in order to get that $10 million. And if that's the case, if nobody's offering more than $10 million, new team gives him the vet minimum. Falcons pay the rest. It's the Russell Wilson thing with the Steelers in 24. So you bring in Cousins on the vet minimum. You have McCarthy. You have Richardson. You have Brosmer, who's probably going to be gone. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Richardson and McCarthy should just be allowed to battle for that first spot. And you know what? I would see this as an opportunity where iron sharpens iron. Where, hey, you guys are basically the same quarterback. Somebody's going to be the starter. Figure it out.
Let's speed up the development of you two.
Yeah. And if neither one of them
shows be the adult in the room,
Kirk Cousins. That's kind of my brain thinking.
Okay.
You have Cousins who can start and operate an efficient enough offense. Will Cousins be exciting? No. Have you seen modern day Kirk Cousins? Not pretty. But at a vet minimum, he can operate a functional offense.
And he can teach those guys how to prepare for the game, because that was one thing he was good at.
But I'm not even worried about that so much. I'm worried about just operating a functional offense, something the Vikings could not do last year.
Well, part of operating is being prepared for it.
I'm just talking once you're under center, can you operate the plays? And quite frankly, those quarterbacks cannot operate the plays. And if the Vikings had competent quarterback play last year, they could be in the Super Bowl. I don't really care how hot of a take that is. They had Sam Darnold, they're probably in the Super Bowl, or they're at least competing for it. Why? Because Darnold filled a lot of holes. He covered up for a lot of issues, especially on the offensive line, and he was good enough at doing everything else. And quite frankly, the Vikings just needed competent to win 12 or 13 games last year, and that's the frustrating part. So you bring in Cousins, he can give you competent enough. Cousins last year, quarterback, probably wins 10 or 11 games. They make the playoffs, they probably win the division. And that's modern day Kirk Cousins. Like, this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about being super far away here. And the idea is if you can bring in Richardson and those two battle, him and McCarthy battle for the starting job, hopefully one of them hits. And it doesn't matter which one. Just one of them needs to hit. And then whichever one hits and starts and they just play good football, this team can make a run of some sort. Now, will it
I
be
think that's
that
what
kind
they
of
may bet on, that one of the two does develop and hit. And with two of them, they have twice the chance of finding one that's successful versus with just one.
And if you do that, I'm very intrigued to see what ends up happening. I'm intrigued to see how the Vikings would end up using Richardson. Because the one thing that Kevin O'Connell loves to do is he loves to throw over the middle and he loves shot plays. He loves deep balls. Richardson is significantly better at throwing deep than anything else he does. Let's talk about it. So we'll go to the 2024 season, Pro Football Focus, all right? Why? Because the 2024 season is where he was a full-time starter. Deep balls.
Don't worry, baby.
Yeah. So deep balls, he was significantly, he was throwing them deep, over 30 yards per pass, and his adjusted completion percentage was significantly higher than his actual completion percentage because you have drops and all that kind of stuff. He completed 13 passes for a whopping like 600 yards and 2 touchdowns, 4 picks. One, the Colts are bad. 2, Richardson needs to improve. But 3, you give Richardson the tools that the Vikings have at their disposal. The idea is that will instantly be better. And then the coaching will be better. And you'll be able to elevate that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think this is the only answer. This is the one thing that's going to fix things for the Minnesota Vikings. What I can tell you is if they bet on Anthony Richardson, it's going to be 2 things. 1, this is what Kevin O'Connell wants. And 2, if they're going to bet on somebody, at least they're betting on someone with traits, somebody who can elevate this offense to a ridiculous level. They're not betting on Mac Jones, who basically went to the Kyle Shanahan rehab factory and operated the easiest offense in the world. Okay. And now we're talking about him being the next Sam Darnold. No, the next Sam Darnold is going to be somebody like Anthony Richardson or Malik Willis. You got to have the traits to be that guy. Darnold had a bonkers arm coming out of college. Mac Jones, he is a wet noodle. And he can operate on schedule and in structure. And if Jones was a free agent, I'd think a lot higher of him. But because you have to trade a day 2 pick, completely out. I want nothing to do with it. That's not worth it at all. But the whole thing with Richardson is it's a high upside play. And if you make that play, the hope is that he hits or the move itself sparks something in McCarthy and then he hits. Is it a good move? We'll find out. My prediction for the trade compensation is based on multiple teams being involved. I think the Vikings would have to trade pick 97 and their 5th round pick for Anthony Richardson and the Colts 4th, which is projected to be 113. So basically, you swap your comp 3rd for a 4th and give them a 5th. Which equates to pick 128 in the 4th round, a late 4th round pick. That's if, with everything that I've heard, if there are multiple suitors.
Okay.
And like you're dropping 16 spots from late round 3 into top of round 4. That's not so bad. And then you give up a 5th. Like that's not crazy compensation. It's significant.
Well, I was thinking day 3, and that would equate to a day 3 pick. Mm-hmm. So
you lose a total of 1 draft pick. But there are going to be multiple teams who want a quarterback. And Richardson, it has the most upside of anybody out there except for maybe Malik Willis. And your mileage may vary on that.
And Malik Willis is going to make at least $30 million.
That's what we're hearing, which, you know what? Good for him. I would hesitate paying him. But if I were if I had no quarterback, like the Sam Darnold contract was easy to get out of after 1 year. I would give him the Sam Darnold contract and just see what happens because Willis has shown the ability to succeed.
But unlimited play. That's the whole problem with Willis. If you look at his, even last year, there's question marks. If you listen to my show yesterday, the Vikings Daily Opener, I disparage every single quarterback that's on there. The problem is the league is so short on viable quarterbacks that we're talking about all this. Yeah. And it's a shame that we are. But we can't find good quarterbacks. That Malik Willis is going to make a minimum probably $30 million, if not more. Hey, I'm all for players making their money, but is he worth it? He could bomb out just like a whole bunch of players can that have, hey, he had 3 good games. Yeah, let's promote him. Let's pay him a lot of money. The other one on that same scale is Mac Jones. Mac Jones, he was so accurate for those 3 games. Whoa, whoop, whoop, whoop. What's his whole career? No, it's not. So, like I said, if you want something funny, something veteran-based, because I took a veteran stick to it, listen to the Vikings Daily Opener on your favorite podcast aggregator from yesterday. You'll enjoy it.
I'll check it out later. The Richardson news is going to be one that we're going to be following. If that trade happens, we'll go live. We'll break it down.
Any quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Unless it's a UDFA or something gross.
All right. Let's have a conversation. I'm going to drop this link into the chat. I'm going to jump on in here. And this is... I need to switch accounts to the First and SKOL account. I was on the A to Z account. That would be kind of weird. This is the link of the article that I'm about to talk about.
This is a good article.
It is breaking down the 10 quarterbacks that I think the Vikings will trade that could potentially add. McCarthy's not on this list because they can't add him. And so I think there are 3 different directions the Vikings can go here. A full-time starter, which you're just signing that guy to start, which would be like the Malik Willis path. Legitimate competition, which would be the path of like trading for a Mac Jones or Anthony Richardson, or a capable backup if McCarthy gets hurt. That's like your Marcus Mariota tier. So you can go any of these different directions. And to kind of balance this out in these rankings, I factored in multiple things. So I factored in cost, talent, upside, fit with Kevin O'Connell, and how they will coexist with JJ McCarthy. Because I think that has to play into everything here. I don't think they love McCarthy anymore. I think that they're forcing themselves to continue loving the player, not the person. They think the person's great, but
it's not you, it's me.
Yeah,
she moves in with the accountant. Yes. Go ahead.
Man, if she's moving in with accountant, how boring are you? Oh my goodness. So I ranked them from that perspective. And my number 10 quarterback is Marcus Mariota, because he is just a guy that you can throw in there and he will give you a baseline level of play. Never going to be exciting. You're never going to push him to start. But if he comes in for 4 games, he can get you to 2-2 or 3-1. And that's all you're asking of him. You're asking him to just be competent. And he's proven multiple times with multiple teams, he can be competent. But you don't want him to be your guy. And that's the big thing. He spent the last couple years backing up Jaden Daniels. He played a bunch last year, and he was decent. They almost beat the Broncos, but it was a tipped ball in overtime that actually helped seal the Broncos win when he was trying to sky it over Nick Bonito on a wide open flat concept. And that is the kind of thing where with a guy like Mariota, just be competent. And he's doing that. So he's my number 10. I don't have guys like Zach Wilson on this list because I think Zach Wilson's a lost cause. I don't think he's worth it. I don't think he's worth it. Garoppolo almost made the list, but he didn't. Mariota is honestly the only guy on here who is just a competent style backup. The other guys would at least provide some kind of competition or take over. Number 9 is Aaron Rodgers. I don't want him. I think he stunk last year. He would not push the ball down the field. He had one of the highest screen percentages I've ever seen. And his arm just isn't the same. His mobility isn't the same. If this was 2022 Aaron Rodgers, I think I'd have a different tune. But this is 2026 Aaron Rodgers, and that player is not good. So I'm completely out. I don't want anything to do with him. And we'll see if the Vikings are willing to do so. The fact that Quasido Fomensa reportedly got fired because he wouldn't bring in Aaron Rodgers or keep Sam Darnold. I get the Darnold one. The Darnold one, I think, is completely valid. Not bringing in Aaron Rodgers? Nah. I think that'd be a bunch of crap. Aaron Rodgers wasn't even good in 2024. Like, that's why I fought so hard against bringing him in, because I didn't think he was going to be good in 25.
He'll probably go back to the lowest graded team in the NFL Players Association, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Speaking of, the Vikings were second for the third year in a row. Their finishes in that are first, second, and second.
Mm-hmm.
Good work, boys. My number 8 is Mac Jones. Mac Jones would be higher on this list if he was a free agent. I'd give him a 1-year, $10 million deal. I'd give him the Sam Darnold contract. My big thing with Mac Jones is I just don't think he's good at football. I think he played 8 games. I think that stretch was a little bit of an aberration because he's playing for Kyle Shanahan, who just makes everything so easy for you. And when we faced him in 24 with the Jags, that was a decent Jags team despite what their record was. Jones was terrible. He was terrible for the majority of his time with the Patriots. His rookie year was okay. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, this guy is awesome. No, he was never good. And he does not have the traits. Now, if the 49ers are going to trade him, it's like a minimum of a 3rd round pick, and maybe that has to upgrade to a 2nd based on incentives. No, I'm completely out. That's not worth it. Free agency, pay a little bit of money. I think that'd be fine. But in this situation where you have to trade for him, consider me 100% out. Because there's no way they take less than a 3rd, and they probably want a 2nd.
Oh, I think they've already said they want a 2nd.
To me, that's gross.
It is.
Let's move on to number 7. And this is the start of the quarterbacks that would sign for the vet minimum because they were cut by their previous team. Tua Tagovailoa.
Cut. Yes.
And Tua, interesting player. We're not even going to talk about the Brian Flores stuff because I think if they sign Tua, then both sides just kind of agree, hey, we're going to squash this and we're going to be okay. Plus, you're like never going to talk to me anyway, so it doesn't matter. Here's the problem with Tua. He has a baby arm. He throws an absolute lollipop over the middle of the field. And the concussions have mounted up. Plus, he has had other injuries other than concussions. This guy's just not durable. You would need to make him bubble boy. That's not something you want a quarterback. You want durability. Tua doesn't have that. If Tua had a better arm, I'd be willing to more take the risk. But at where we're at right now,
a lot of the quarterbacks on the list, including JJ and AR and Tua, fall into they get injured all the time.
Mm-hmm. So same with the next guy.
So does your next guy. Yeah, I was about to say.
Kyler Murray. And Murray is a ball of talent, but he can't stay on the field. Not only can he not stay on the field, he is the complete antithesis of what Kevin O'Connell wants. Murray can't see over offensive linemen. He does not throw to the middle of the field. What does O'Connell want to do? Throw over the middle of the field. Kyler Murray is an air raid style quarterback, meaning you throw to the sidelines and you throw deep and you do a lot of screens. O'Connell is not against doing screens. He increased his screen percentage year over year by 1.5%, which is a significant amount. But Murray just does not have the play style nor the durability. It was drafted in 2019, so he's played 7 seasons in the NFL. I think he's only finished 2 of them completely healthy. Like, that's a problem. He cannot stay healthy.
Did
Last
you
year was
watch Warren Sharp's video on him?
No, I don't watch Warren Sharp.
Oh, the stats since 2022 are horrible.
Yeah. The film's not much better.
Oh, I mean, horrible. Bottom rated. He can't throw. He doesn't throw deep well.
Well, the one thing that I'm curious about and why I don't really listen to guys like Warren Sharp is because they haven't exactly had guys to throw deep to.
Which is quite possible.
Mm-hmm.
But then throw him on a outdoor field. He can't win. Even if the weather's good, he can't win. He does not win. He has not won any since 2022 when he plays outdoors. We have 2 games a year minimum outdoors.
I would need more context than just he just doesn't win outdoors because there's too many other factors, which is why I don't listen to people like Warren Sharp.
He's just, if you take 4 years worth of production and you look at the games were played outdoors and you look at wins and losses, he does not win outside. Now you throw in wind. He doesn't do it when it's over 15 miles an hour. Throw in precip. He's lost when he only had 1 game over 15 miles an hour. He lost it. He had 1 game where the precip, and he lost that. Only one game where it was 45 below or 45 or below, and that was in, I think, Carolina. So it wasn't that much below 45, and he lost.
I've already debunked what you've just said. He's won multiple games outdoors. He beat the Patriots in December of 23. He beat the Dolphins in October of 23. He beat the Niners in October of 23. And he's won games outside. I don't know where this is coming from.
That's not what Warren Sharp said, but okay.
Well, I'm just looking at Pro Football Reference and.
Well, I'm sure he uses PFR.
Sorry, the Patriots game was at home. I missed that one, but he beat the Dolphins on the road. He beat he beat the Niners on the road, and that's 2024.
Right, but I didn't say he lost all of them outside. Or at least if I did, I misspoke.
You said he didn't win any since 2022.
Since 2022, when it's 45 degrees below or below.
Oh, you're talking cold weather. That's a different story. So many quarterbacks suck ass in cold weather.
When the wind is above 15 miles an hour, he lost. And when the game is raining, he lost.
Yeah. Well, some of that is also on the fact that his teams were bad. He was like the last few years, the Cardinals have been ass. And only some of that is on Kyler Murray. So I'm not even here to defend Kyler Murray because I don't really want him as a quarterback of the Vikings. But this is why you blindly trusting stats. So this guy sucks. Why? The team sucked ass too. It's a complicated question. But the one weird thing is Murray actually has arm strength to be able to drive through wind. The problem is he can't see over offensive linemen. He just can't do it because he's 5'10". Like, this is the kind of guy that should have gone to Canada and been great. Or honestly, it might have been a better path for him as far as career success to go play baseball, where he was a first-round pick of the Oakland Athletics and who are now playing in Sacramento and then moving to Las Vegas. But that's an entirely different story. Murray just, look, if it's a minimum deal, fine, I'll try it. But I don't want it. And I don't think you should want it either based on what O'Connell wants to do. 5 is the ultimate wild card here. That's Derek Carr. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like Derek Carr. I kind of think he's like on the Kirk Cousins scale. He's like 80% of Kirk Cousins. And when he gets hit a couple times in the pocket, he stinks. Not good. He turtles. He panics. He will just throw balls up into the air. And it's ugly football. But when he gets into a rhythm and he gets a little streaky, things can go really, really well for Derek Carr. And he did sit out all of last year. He had injuries. One of them was just to his throwing shoulders labrum. That's all healed up now. And apparently, he hinted heavily at the fact that the Vikings called him during the season last year to come play. But he didn't. He said no to everybody. And if he's going to come back, he made it very clear on his podcast with his brother that he wants a Super Bowl. So the Saints still own his rights. In a similar way to how the Patriots owned Gronk's rights a couple years ago. They traded him to the Buccaneers for a 4th and a 7th after he sat out an entire season. I think with Carr, it would probably take like a 5th, and you could get it done because it would the deal would come off their books for the most part in New Orleans, and you already have Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck. Spencer Rattler is another interesting idea, but I don't know if they're going to want to get rid of Rattler because he's an inexpensive backup quarterback option, even though he's got oodles of arm talent too. But Carr would be interesting because just stability, a baseline level of quarterback play. And that's one of the ideas here is you can get baseline level of quarterback play. Number 4, I will say there's Doug Flutie talk in the chat. I just want everybody to know he may not have had a great NFL career, but he was voted by CFL Media the greatest Canadian Football League player of all time. So
Doug Flutie was fun to watch.
I just want to throw that out there. Go watch the I want to say it was the 1996 Grey Cup between the Argonauts and the Edmonton Eskimos. Fantastic football game. He plays against his brother Darren, who's with Edmonton in that game. But it's a snow game. It's really cool. He also won in 97, and then he joined the Bills in 98. He also won with the Calgary Stampeders in 1992. Go watch some old Flutie in Canada. Great stuff. Pinball Clemens is on those teams. A lot of fun. Sorry, this is not a CFL podcast. Number 4, Malik Willis. The only reason Malik Willis is down this low on the list is because he's going to cost $20 to $30 million. You were going to get him a 1-year, $10 million deal, he'd be at 1. But the reality is the cost of him is going to hinder this. Now, Willis is a fascinating player, and you are betting on just playing a few games under Matt LaFleur. Early on, and this needs to be contextualized, he started his first game with the Packers after being in the building for like 17 days. He was barely with the team when he started those first couple games because Jordan Love got hurt on that final play in Brazil. And they really had to baby the offense. They had to do a lot of really simple stuff. Matt LaFleur called a phenomenal run game to kind of help Willis out. Then the next week, they kind of stepped up the passing a little bit. They installed some stuff, and Willis looked a lot more comfortable, and they were using the passing game more effectively. Then Jordan Love comes back. So 2025 comes around. He plays sparingly, but he has to come in a couple games. Plays relatively well in those instances. Not perfect, but relatively well. They did lose to the Baltimore Ravens. I think it was 41-24. But Willis had a really good game and showed a lot of growth in things that you wanted to see from him. Because you already knew he could run and he had a rocket launcher. But you wanted to see him stand in the pocket, go through progressions, deliver under pressure, not panic and bail out. And he was doing those things for Matt LaFleur. So the idea would be, okay, he can come in and do those things for Kevin O'Connell because they run the same style of offense. And you'd be right. That would be a good idea. But the problem is twofold here. One, do you want to bet that kind of money on a guy who really only has 3 starts that you can judge on because the first 2 years with the Titans are basically throwaway? And 2, do you want to use that kind of cap space on a guy that you're not going to commit to be the guy? The answer is no. If the Vikings just decide to say, screw everything, we're just going to commit to Malik Willis, I think you could justify paying it on a 3-year deal where you can get out after 1 year. Should you do that? I wouldn't want to be the team to commit to that. I would want to get him closer to the Justin Fields range or even less. And the Justin Fields deal was 2 years, $40 million with $30 million guaranteed. I think you can pallet that for a guy that you think can be the guy, but you are still not 100% sure. But $30 million is a lot to commit to a relative unknown, despite having all the traits, despite having flashes of good quarterback play. I don't see a world where the Vikings should do that. It's it's a tough one because in a vacuum, Willis is the best option, but we don't live in a vacuum. We live in a salary cap world. And that's why.
For flashes.
Yeah. Yeah.
JJ has flashes and it costs less than that.
Yeah. Average of $5 million a year over 4 years. Number 3, this is where things get interesting. Number 3 is Kirk Cousins. I like the idea of bringing back Kirk Cousins, but I also hate the idea of bringing back Kirk Cousins because of all of the symbolism that's behind it from his 6 years in Minnesota. I don't love the fact that we wanted to get away from quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins. We wanted to go for the guy who could deliver a Super Bowl, who could have all these traits and elevate us to the next level. Well, then we tried to get that guy with JJ McCarthy, and he's been bad. So now we're just going to go back and revert to Kirk Cousins? Even though that's not what we're doing, it certainly feels that way. And because it feels that way, that's the reality. Because perception is reality in these situations. If you bring back Kirk Cousins, you are essentially admitting to the entire fan base that what you did the last 2 years did not work, and you are trying to go back in time. Even though Kirk Cousins isn't coming here to be the long-term starter and to be the franchise quarterback, it sends a potentially dangerous message. We've had people in the comments for the last couple months that are anti-Kirk. If it were a different quarterback with everything the same and his name wasn't Kirk Cousins, I think those fans would be on board because of what Kirk Cousins represents to this team and this fan base. Is it the right decision to bring him back? Your mileage will vary. But I'll tell you this. At the veteran minimum, if nobody pays him more than $10 million and he can give you a baseline level of quarterback play in a pinch, I really don't see how it's bad other than for PR purposes because Cousins is capable enough at the vet minimum price to be worth bringing in. And I'll say this much. If you really despise him that much while he was here, I understand. Cousins isn't coming here to be the guy anymore. He would be coming here because he likes the city, he likes the team, and his family loved living here. And he would just come here, hope he can get a few more starts in before his career's done. And hopefully he can teach JJ McCarthy a thing or two. But it's a different kind of situation than what we had when we signed Cousins to that 3-year, $84 million deal. And then the 2-year, $66 million extension. And then the 1-year, $35 million extension. We're not dealing with that quarterback anymore. This is late stage Kirk Cousins. And for me, I think I can deal with that in 2025 or 2026. I did not want to deal with that in 2025. But I think where we're at now, we're in a different spot. And this is where I think some of that talk about we're on a different timeline now with JJ McCarthy. Maybe that's where that comes into play.
Yeah, maybe he's foreshadowing. I've got Kirk on the speed dial. He's going to be coming.
Here's the really interesting part with Kirk before we move on to number 2 and talk about number 1. Kirk Cousins is not going to be released until the first day of the league year, which means that you will have 48 hours of legal tampering before Kirk Cousins becomes a free agent.
Well, I think just about everybody can. Nobody can move teams unless they're already a free agent.
But they can cut him whenever they want. They're waiting until the new league year starts, which means 48 hours that you can't talk to Kirk and 48 hours where you may miss out on your other options. So that could make things very difficult for teams who are looking for quarterbacks because are they going to want to wait for Kirk Cousins? That's the danger.
The 48 hours before the...
Dave, that's only for impending unrestricted free agents, not players who are under contract.
Gotcha. Yeah,
so
you're right.
That complicates things. Will the Vikings be willing to wait? If they are willing to wait, it means they already have kind of struck a deal with his agent, Mike McCarthy, at the Combine, which happens all the time. So really not that much of a surprise. But it'll be interesting how things develop with Kirk because, I mean, you can just read the comments right now. This fan base is passionate as hell about Kirk Cousins.
Well, they should be.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't blame them one bit. Second place, an interesting player. His name is Geno Smith. And Smith is a player that I could easily see being let go by the Raiders. He's guaranteed $18 million, 18.5, I think. And the way the Raiders structure contracts is they don't do a lot of signing bonuses. They do roster bonuses. So it hits the cap right away because they don't want to have a lot of dead cap. They just want to eat it right now. And some of that has to do with, probably some of their cash poor problems that they've had for years. To my knowledge, they're not cash poor now, but Geno Smith is kind of what Kirk Cousins was in 2023. There's flaws. He's not elite. He's not going to have this bazooka arm, but you give him a capable offensive line, which the Vikings, I believe, have. You have great weapons. You have a good running game, which honestly just needs more attempts. And I think Geno Smith can deliver top 10 to top 15 quarterback play. You're not asking him to be God. You're just asking him to be good. And I think Smith can still deliver that. I don't think a lot of the issues that Raiders team were on Geno. I think some of them were, but they didn't have great receivers. They didn't have a consistent running game because their offensive line was poor. The offensive line coach was the son of Pete Carroll, and it was a mitigated disaster where rookies were going to watch film with John Spytek, the GM, because of how poor the coaching was. The offensive line didn't know what they were supposed to do half the time. That situation was terrible. Now, I'm not saying that Geno is this incredible quarterback who's going to change everything for the Vikings, but I do think he's better than what last year was. And you can potentially get him at the vet minimum, which, hey, Geno, come start a season for us. See if you can rehab your career and go get another decent-sized contract from somebody else in 2027.
He could be the adult in the room.
Yeah.
When you have JJ and AR and you have Geno.
Yeah. And you know what the best part about Geno would be? He flopped big time in New York. Then he had to go across town in New York to be a backup. And then he goes to back up Russell Wilson, and then he wins the job when Wilson goes. He understands how to kind of get away from that, how to rise above and handle some of those situations, which would be good for players like JJ McCarthy and Anthony Richardson. Now, is it going to be the smart idea? Your mileage is going to vary on all of these. Whether you think I'm right about my selections of players, or you think I'm wrong, it's a complicated question. But I will say my number one, we already talked about him a lot. His name's Anthony Richardson. I think it's the best move because you're getting a high upside guy at a relatively inexpensive cost, and hopefully his presence with JJ McCarthy sparks something where one of those guys just becomes the starting quarterback and the franchise guy. That's the hope. Plus, I've been convinced for a while now that they're just going to make the trade for Richardson. We'll see. We'll see how this works. I think they would have made the trade for Richardson if he was healthy at the deadline. But no matter what, let's just be real about this list. It stinks. It's not good. The Vikings need better. Will they get better? We'll see. I don't think they're trading for Joe Burrow. I don't think they're trading for Lamar Jackson. Maybe you could talk yourself into Tanner McKee from the Eagles or Davis Mills from the Texans. I mean, maybe CJ Stroud becomes available, but I highly doubt that. I think that's just Twitter gossip kind of thing.
Oh, what was it? The owner of the GM, I don't think it was the owner, came out this week and from Indianapolis and said, "We're not trading him. Are you insane?"
Yeah, exactly. People just, they just get really excited and kind of steadfast, and that's how rumors start. But overall, the Vikings probably aren't going to find their franchise quarterback on this list unless they get Richardson and just make him a megastar, which is about a 5% chance of happening. But that 5% may be all Kevin O'Connell needs. That 5%, though, may be all Kevin O'Connell needs. And that's where coaches think they can fix everybody, especially a guy who's been anointed by everybody as a quarterback guru. We'll see. This is going to be a really fun couple of weeks for the Vikings. And that's why we say like, subscribe, and ring the bell for those notifications. We got 120 of you in here right now. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're going to have a lot more. When news breaks, I work from home, and so does Dave. We are going to go live when big time stuff hits. We're going to go live after big signings. We're going to be live at the end of day one of free agency. We're going to be live a couple times at least during that week. We're going to have SKOL searches coming. We're going to talk about the NFL scouting combine. We're going to talk about free agency, the draft. We're going to have a lot of stuff here for you, and you are going to want to stick around and be a part of it. Don't forget, we do have 2 bloggers on Sunday afternoon, 4:05 p.m. Central Time. Darren makes his weekly appearance as the half of 2.5 members of Vikings First and SKOL, and they will have a nice conversation probably about the scouting combine and all the news and notes coming from it.
Oh, guaranteed the grades. Mm-hmm. Team grades. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we will be back on this show at the latest Monday night. And if the Vikings do something crazy, you'll probably see us again before then. Until then, thank you guys so much for joining. Like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. I'm Tyler. He's Dave. SKOL Vikings, everybody.
And I remind you, go listen to the Vikings Daily Opener, especially if you're a veteran. I think you will like it. I go over all these quarterbacks in a very specific manner, and I think you will enjoy it. Go check it out. It's on the podcast feed. You will love it. And as we say, SKOL Vikings.
SKOL Vikings.
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love, our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Forness and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you. Thanks, George. So dearly for watching the Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone.